Electricast.
Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships are Bermudan and British Registry.
With new McValue at McDonald's, you always get more than you expect every day. So even if gas prices go up, you can buy a double cheeseburger and add a McChicken for $1. Or before game time, you can get $5 meal deals for the group. And if breakfast is about to end, get deals in the app to save before the bell. The choice is yours, and the choice with McValue is always more.
Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Must opt into rewards for app deals.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today we're talking with Dr. Danielle Angela. Dr. Danielle is a profit strategist, money coach, chiropractor, hypnotherapist, and neurosomatic release practitioner. She started her healthcare career while in high school and has over 20 years of experience in the health and wellness industry. Since 2015, Dr. Danielle has offered life and business coaching for female health and wellness entrepreneurs. She's helped thousands of business owners achieve greater work-life balance and increased profitability in their businesses. Today, Dr. Danielle is best known for helping service providers overcome their fears about money, charge their worth, and build highly profitable freedom-based businesses utilizing both business strategies and somatic healing modalities. I'm really excited to speak with you today. Welcome, Dr. Danielle, to the show.
Hi. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, well, I am really excited because the focus for this month of February is financial empowerment, and it's really to empower women around their finances because, as we both know, money can be such a tricky and sensitive subject, especially when it comes to actually not only just being able to budget, and I think budget seems to be a dirty word for a lot of people, but also that financial investing part of it too. So with that in mind, I just want to really dive into what you're doing and how you're making that impact. So you've really had an incredible career spanning over 2 decades in the health and wellness industry. Can you share what led you to transition from being a healthcare provider into becoming a profit strategist and money coach for female entrepreneurs?
Yes, absolutely. Well, way back at the beginning of that transition, the reason for the transition was my children. I found it to be very, very challenging to balance running a successful practice, caring for all my patients, taking care of myself, and also being a present mother. And I had one child. She was about 2 at the time. And then sort of unexpectedly, I suppose you could say, I found myself expecting another child. And I just knew that things had to change. And I felt like I had missed out on so much with my first child already, even just in those first 2 years. And I didn't want to continue that with my next child. I really wanted to be able to be more present with her. So I thought, well, I'm just going to walk away from my practice. I sold my practice to another chiropractor who I had known since before either of us had gone to chiropractic school. And I made the transition very quickly, and I didn't know what was next. I taught biology and anatomy and physiology part-time and then gave birth to my second baby. And I knew that I still wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to own my own business. I wanted to help people. But through reading books, listening to podcasts, I discovered this industry called coaching no, sorry, 10 years ago. And I thought, well, maybe I can do that. And the rest is history. Here we are now.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of people, and especially because you have the background, so why not take that into another way of helping people? I think your reach then goes further. What I love is that you're bringing knowledge, your wealth of knowledge into the coaching world. And I think a lot of people are now, because coaching has become so mainstream, people are looking to people who have experience in different areas to actually help them in the wellness space. So I love that you've done that. Now, you've helped thousands of business owners achieve greater work-life balance. I love that you lean into work-life balance because I truly believe there is such a thing. I know a lot of people try to debunk it, saying it's not true, but I truly believe that there is, and it's not necessarily an even scale. And I think that's where people misconstrue it. But what are some of the key strategies you recommend for women who are struggling to find that balance between their business and their personal life?
Well, we first have to ask ourselves, do we even believe that it's possible? Right. So just as you mentioned already, there are a lot of people who say, oh, work-life balance is not possible. Well, of course, if we believe that it's not possible, then it's not. So checking our beliefs is really the first thing. I know for me, I didn't want to accept that as true for myself. And then of course we get to also look at like, well, what is my definition or your definition of work-life balance? And that means something a bit different for everyone. For me, it was just being able to spend time with my children and prioritize my own health. It was very simple. And so now, even as a service provider, after all of these years, what I do consistently is I schedule the things I want to do for myself before I schedule everything else. So that might mean getting adjusted, having a massage once or twice a month, and going to the gym. Those are the things I do very consistently that I have to put on my calendar to make happen. And once I schedule those things in, then I know, okay, this is how much time I have to actually give to my business, how much time I have available for clients. And that's quite different than what most of us do when we first start out, especially is we just think, okay, I have to get as many clients as possible. And every moment of the day suddenly becomes like compromisable. It becomes time that you might be available for other people. So if you're not really clear with yourself about what it is that you need and want to do to take care of yourself, to take care of your health, to take care of your family, your home, especially over the long term, then we find ourselves in these places where we're overextending ourselves, we're overgiving, and we didn't do it on purpose. We didn't mean for it to be that way, but that's just sort of like the default of what happens for so many people, especially service providers.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you were talking about the self-care part. And by the way, if you heard any of the little bit of noises in the background, it was her sweet little pup. But yeah, I love how you talk about making sure that you schedule yourself. This is one of the things I've been trying to really have people wake up to listen to, is that scheduling you first, like as a very important person on your list, and taking care of you is going to help you to heal up in those areas of your life so that you have what you want, so that you can live the life that you want to live and be in joy and gratitude and all of that. Being able to actually spend time with your children, not feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. And yet now I have two little ones that want to play with me and I don't have the energy, but they don't understand that. You can't turn them and say, Mommy's so tired right now. She doesn't have time for you, because that's not going to translate well. So I love how you talked about that piece of putting it on your calendar. Prioritizing yourself is so important. And for me, I think that really is telling, because it can be, like you said, for service providers, really super hard when you're pouring into everyone else and you've got such a busy schedule, but then you forget that the more you pour from an empty cup, the less you have to give fully. So I agree with you. I think it's so important to really make those a priority, and checking what you believe around what's possible for you, like how you can balance your personal life and your professional life. Like it is possible. And again, it's not an even scale, which a lot of people think, oh, if you're talking even scale, of course, I can understand that you wouldn't believe that. But of course, it's not an even scale. It is what's priority to you. Like you said, family, and then and taking care of you, because then you can show up the best for your clients and for yourself. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. And another thing too that I've learned maybe the hard way over the last 13, almost 14 years of being a mother and supporting so many other parents and especially mothers of small children. We have this notion that when our children get older, when they're in preschool or kindergarten, elementary school, high school, that we'll have more time. And what I find case after case is that that's not true. Whether it's because, the kids want to participate in multiple sports or other things, just having a teenager in and of itself is time consuming because they don't have the same physical demands that they had, of course, when they were babies and toddlers, but they have so much more emotional need and they have so much more like mental and emotional support that they need from parents. And they still need so much guidance that the notion that, well, I'll just work more when my kids are older. It's really not true for most parents because they still need us so much. It's just different in all the different phases.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk money mindset because this is one of the things, like this is for that, as I said, for financial empowerment. And I feel like it's something that I had to really dig into because I equated that money meant struggle and that money wasn't there to support. And so I had to really unpack a lot of that. So what are some of the most common mindset blocks that you found around money and how do you guide your clients to break free from that?
I think the two biggest things that I see, especially in women, are that they don't feel deserving and that they don't feel that money is for them. I can relate to both of those, especially the second one, that money isn't for someone like me because I grew up in a home where money felt very scarce. There were times that we had very little or even no food or that the electric would be shut off. There was a time when I was in middle school that we didn't have phone. The telephone was shut off because we couldn't pay the bill, right? Or like there wasn't enough money to put gas in the car to go to town to get groceries. So those are my earliest experiences with money. And over the last, gosh, it's been probably 14 to 16 years now, I've noticed that I have certain behaviors that I wasn't aware of that were the same as what I saw modeled for me. So an example would be I used to take bills or any things that came in the mail that needed to be addressed that might be related to finances. And I would stack them up and I would ignore them. And so, for some people, like they might have, things kind of maybe they open the mail and they like set the bill down so that they remember to pay it tomorrow. But what I would do is I would get different things in the mail and I would just stack them into a nice, neat little pile and then ignore the pile. But I felt like if I at least made the pile small, then it didn't feel like as big of a problem. Whereas if I were to take all those things and spread them out, it was like I couldn't ignore them as easily. So this actually took some time for me to retrain. Even when I had plenty of money to pay whatever bill came in the mail, I still did that. I still found myself like, oh, I'm just going to put this over here in the corner in a little tiny stack and just ignore it until sometime in the future. I don't know when. And I had to train myself to actually like look at it, acknowledge it, be thankful that I had the ability to take care of it, to send the money if it was a bill, right? And to sit with any discomfort that came up in that process as well. And just acknowledge like, this is an old pattern that's been here for a long time. This is how I saw things happen as a child. And to do it differently feels really uncomfortable. It almost feels like a silly example when I say it out loud, but it was such a big thing for me in regards to my relationship with money and retraining my behaviors and my thoughts with, is there enough? That was usually the question that would come to my mind, when I would get those things and want to stack them up in the corner and ignore the corner pile of papers was like, I don't know if there's enough to take care of this. Oh God, what if I don't have enough to take care of this? Such a process.
Yeah, it totally is. I can relate because my brothers and I, my mom was a single mom and I would see her struggle. And the only way that it appeared that she could get by was a lot of the time borrowing money from her father,
Yeah.
who was my grandmother had passed. And so I just looked at that too as another form of the only way that you can actually get by if you don't have the money is I learned through credit. So I really did a number on myself in the very early beginnings of actually having access to credit because I learned that, oh, you don't have to pay it back because my mom never really had to pay it back. So you take money, you spend it as quickly as you can, and you don't have to pay it back. And so I had a really, bad relationship with it. And I had to unpack that, realizing how I was, not managing it in a way that really supported me. So yeah, I love the fact that you have a process to really help people to really take a look at like it, just acknowledge it, it's not gonna go away. So,
Yeah.
it's really important to make sure that we recognize it's not going away.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if we can at least say, okay, maybe there's a better way to look at it, just face that this is what it is. And like you were saying, be thankful especially if you have now, you found yourself in a place where you had more abundance. So now I'm more abundant. I can actually afford to pay this. Or if you're not in that place, is like, how can you be thankful for the money that you do have coming in and that you are able to pay out for the services that you are getting and just be thankful around that. I think that gratitude goes a long way, but I think we take for granted. We have the lights on or the phone, we have our cell phone, or we have a roof over our head, or food on our table, or clothes on our back, or our kids, are in private school, or whatever that looks like. And sometimes we just take that for granted and not recognize these are really things we should be giving thanks for on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So many service providers, they struggle with putting themselves out there because they feel their worth is tied to what they charge.
Yeah.
So how do you help your clients separate their personal worth, which is priceless, from the value of the services they provide and set prices that reflect that?
Yes, absolutely. Yes to all of that. And a note that I want to hit on here first is that a lot of people who own brick and mortar businesses, especially, will look around at their competitors and set their fees for services based upon what their competitors are charging. So for a massage therapist, for example, might look on Google at like, what are the other massage therapists charging for a half hour, a 1 hour, a 90-minute, a 2 hour massage? I'll just set my rates the same as those people. And that's a really easy, comfortable thing to do. Sometimes people will do that research and then decide to set their fees lower, hoping that they attract people because their fees are lower. So it's almost like an easy marketing tactic in a sense that we hope will work. And sometimes it does, but I often see it backfire, again, specifically for service providers, because they end up attracting people that are shopping on price, not on value. And it creates a lot of problems later in the relationship with the clients. So how do we start to change this? Well, there's so much I feel like that goes into this, and it can be so unique for each person, right? But it's like, where did we learn that charging our worth, whatever that is, was wrong in the first place? Who said that you can't have the most expensive fees for your services in your area? And what are the stories that come up if you were to be the one who is the most expensive? What if you were the most expensive by 50%, 200%? Who knows, right? What are the stories that start to come up? And for a lot of people, that story is that people will think I'm salesy or greedy, that I'm just in this for the money, that I don't really care about people. When in fact, none of those things are usually true about that person. Not as a whole, at least, right? That they do actually care about other people. And so then we have to really look at, well, why are we attempting to charge our worth, whatever that means, in the first place, right? When is it? And ultimately, when it comes down to, for me, and what I hope to instill in other people as I work with them is that it's not about being greedy. It's not about being salesy. It's about being resourced. In other words, that you are able to offer a space for people where they get so much value from the experience because you are so regulated. You're so safe in your own experience, your own life, essentially. You have the resources that you need to feel happy and healthy. It's such a catch 22 because when we're new in business, especially, and we don't have a lot of experience, we feel like I just need to get more experience. I've got to do that at whatever cost, even if that cost is my physical health or my mental and emotional well-being, etc. What happens as we do that, as we take that approach, is that we end up shortening the lifespan of the entrepreneur. In other words, no, I don't mean like their actual life on earth, but the lifespan of their ability to provide the services that they're providing. So they burn out. They get tired. They get resentful. They feel unappreciated. They feel overworked and underpaid. And unfortunately, there's no boss to go to ask for a raise. There kind of is. There's like a little caveat there. Like the boss is you, right? The only person you can go to if you are a business owner to say, hey, I deserve to have a raise, and here are all the reasons why, is yourself. And so then it comes down to seeing your own worth. So those are kind of like the more introspective, soul searching types of approaches to take. But also, I have people go through a process to just really look at, from a financial perspective, what are your goals financially? How much money do you want to make this business work for you and to support your lifestyle? And then how much do you want to work? And if we just took all of that information and objectively crunched numbers, what makes sense for you to charge for your services? And oftentimes, that number is different than what people think that it should be based upon what their competitors are charging. And then that comparison comes up again, and it's like, we could compare your fees to someone else's fees, but the bottom line here is that we don't know if those other people are happy, healthy. Is their business profitable? Or are they on the verge of bankruptcy? Like, we have no idea. So there's really not much point in comparing fees to other people's fees because there's just so much that can be happening behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah. And you have to also think about the experience of your customer is going to be different with you than it is going to be with someone else. So when you are pricing your services, what is the experience that your customer is going to get from that? Because you could be giving them something completely different that's amazing beyond anything that they'd ever experienced. It's kind of like the whole idea behind, people have talked to me about, they have different stores or restaurants that they go to. One, the experience is much more enjoyable because they have all of these different things that they do. Like they ask your name, they know a little bit about you. So they make it more like I want to know you, a community family type of experience. And others, it's just like, take your order, take your money, and that's it. And so it's like, it's the experience too that comes into play. So I love that. So I want to talk about because you have somatic healing in your work, like you have somatic healing modalities that you use in your work. So I think that's a unique approach for a money coach. How do you incorporate somatic practices into business growth, and what impact do they have on your clients' financial success?
Oh gosh. Can I first share my own experience with this?
Absolutely.
It's 2024 as we're recording this right now. And I want to just share, as recently as 2018, I was working with a coach who would consistently ask me when I was working on making a decision, maybe I was thinking about launching a new course or increasing my fees for private coaching. And she would say, what do you feel in your body? And I was like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what I feel in my body. Like, my body just feels nothing. I don't think I feel anything in my body. And I just I resisted the invitation for a long time to really learn to listen to my body or listen to my intuition about those things, about anything, really. I was a mother of 3 little girls at that time. They were 7, 4, and 1, probably, or less than 1. My youngest was born in the beginning of 2018. And I was probably touched out. I was, overstimulated from raising little kids for a long time, and 3 of them pretty close together. But over time, I thought, maybe there's something here for me. And why am I so, I don't think I used this word at the time, but why am I so numb? Why do I feel so disconnected from myself in this way? So the process for me wasn't exactly easy, but a couple of years ago, I started a new training to add some different modalities to my toolbox, essentially, as a facilitator for other people's healing experiences. And neurosomatic release was one of them. And neurosomatic release is really, it had invited me to tune into different parts of my body, to listen and to feel whatever sensations are there. And so by that time, that was around 2022, I was already getting some practice on my own, right? Just like organically. But then this training really helped me. It just kind of opened the door to like, oh, this is one of the missing pieces for me as a facilitator for other people, because we're always in our heads. We're always trying to think about things and make things make sense and like do what's logical. And that works to a certain extent. But there's lots and lots of research that's available on this if anyone wants to dive into it further. One really great book about this topic that's a little different, a little off topic, but similar would be The Body Keeps the Score. It really just helps us to understand how we store emotions in our body and how we continue to repeat behaviors or thought patterns because of emotions that we've experienced in the past that are still there. They're stuck, in other words, right? We haven't fully processed through them. And when we are able to do that in a safe space, that we can finally start to change our behavior and make different decisions and think differently, feel differently, and have a different experience ultimately, create different lives, really. So as I dove into that work, like I resisted and I resisted and I resisted and I resisted. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll start also then adding this into how I facilitate for other people. And the results have been amazing. I have one client, she's probably my favorite success story from 2024 so far. She and I have worked together in a coaching relationship for several years, off and on, probably since 2018 or 19. And I was able to help her in those first couple of years really make changes in how she was managing her schedule, like how she was scheduling her appointments with clients and those like more tactical and logistical types of business operations. But then she got to this place where she was kind of stuck, or she had a plateau, really. And then she stayed there for quite a long time. And she came to me in 2023 and she said, I'm either going to figure out how to make this business make sense for me and my family, or I'm going to sell it or close it or do something else. And I don't know what that something else is. And it's really scary. So I want to figure this out. I want to get past this plateau that I've been at. And I said, well, do you want to try something that we haven't done before? And she was like, sure, what is it? And I said, well, I don't really know what to call it exactly, but I've been learning different modalities. I've been practicing them myself. And so let's just try it and see what happens. Like, what's the worst case scenario, right? And she was open to using different modalities than we had before, which really was just kind of like a coaching, mentoring, consulting relationship. And then we started doing a lot of deeper healing for her, like inner child healing, neurosomatic release, some parts work. And from May to September of this year, so that was 3 months or so, she 2.5 times her bank balance for her business. Like, she had never crossed 10,000 in her bank account prior to May of 2020. And by September, she had over $20,000 in her checking account. And it wasn't because she was seeing so many more clients or because she had increased her fees drastically. She hadn't hired any other service providers. So how do I explain how that happened? I don't know. I don't know. But she literally looks like a different person now. So it's been really incredible to see her just grow and change in this way, and for her to finally feel like her business is making sense. That it's not just an expensive hobby, as maybe her significant other had called it in the past, but that is something that really she knows for sure, and her husband does as well, that it contributes to their family in a positive way.
Yeah. And I feel the deepest healing or the deepest transformations come from the inside out. When you feel whole, finally, everything just falls into place. It's
Yes.
hard to explain. And I think that's why for me, that I feel there's a lot of people who have a hard time seeing the value maybe in doing self-development work for themselves personally, because they don't understand that it comes from a place of feeling first, and then you start to see the results physically. It comes from the feeling first. And so that's one of the things I think it can be hard for some people to be able to translate that. It's like you have to feel it first, and all of a sudden things just start to fall into place. Like you were saying, how do you explain when, all of a sudden her bank account starts to mirror her inside, and her inside's reflecting out to the outside world, and it's being reflected back. I mean, that's, I guess, the best way to explain it. But yeah, I love that story. That's amazing. Well, I have a final question for you. You've coached countless female health and wellness entrepreneurs, thousands of people, you've helped them. What advice can you give to women who are just starting out and they want to create both the financial success and also leaning into a fulfilling lifestyle?
Oh, the first thing that comes to my mind is not something that I would usually say, but this is just what's on my heart right now, which is to not give up. And I think the reason, like the deeper reason for that might be that there are a lot of people who might feel like your dreams don't make sense, or that you are somehow too much, you're expecting too much, for lack of better words, that you're crazy. This is impossible. But everything that has come into existence, the iPhone that's sitting on my desk right now, like it didn't exist at some point, and someone had to have the ability to say, what if we did this? Like, what would be possible then? And every new thing that's created in the world starts with something that nobody else has ever done before. So when other people might say to you that it's not possible, you're asking for too much, maybe you should go get a job instead, they're usually offering that advice from a place of wanting to protect you. They want the best for you, but you don't have to listen to them. And then that also means like we need to surround ourselves with other people who have been there, who want the same things, and who believe that it's possible for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can relate too. 'Cause in the beginning, like my husband would say to me, you're sitting here for so long, you're spending a lot of time here. He would say to me, like, why are you doing this? And I said, what really is harmful is that when you're pushing at me this way, it distracts me and it keeps me in my head about, is this possible? I said, I don't need you to fully understand. I just need you to support me and just believe. And that I believe in me, and I just need you to believe in me too, and just support me. And from those conversations that we've had, I've been able to cultivate that relationship with my husband. But you're right, you could have someone in your life that says, "Why are you doing this? Like, aren't you wasting your time? Nothing really is coming of this. Why are you doing this still?" And so it's just having, like you were saying, I'm a huge fan of community, finding those people who actually get you and understand the journey that you're on and can support you, and coaching. I absolutely 100% believe that coaching is an industry, especially when you can find a really good coach that really has your best interests at heart and really wants to see you succeed. I love coaching. It's been game changing for me to be coached. And so, yes, coaches get coached. And I truly believe in coaching and I believe in this industry. And there's so many really great coaches out there. And so my advice to expand on what you said is just when you're finding those communities out there and you're finding someone like a coach, like Dr. Danielle could be someone to help you with that. Definitely don't turn your back on that, because that person that gets revealed to you that you come into contact with could really be that one missing piece of the puzzle that helps you to see what you're missing. Mm-hmm. And we're not telling you what to do. We're actually just showing you, revealing to you what's already within you to help you to like lean into that more. So I love that. I am so happy that you spent time today. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I love the value that you bring, that you provide to your clients that you've been doing. And I really appreciate the way you help women feel empowered to take control of their finances, shift their mindset, and build freedom-based businesses that align with their lives. So yeah, I'm really thrilled that your contact information is in the show notes so our listeners can connect with you directly and learn more about the amazing work that you're doing and to possibly work with you. So thank you so much again for taking time to spend with me today.
Well, you are so welcome. And thank you so much for having me.
And to our listeners, I hope today's conversation has encouraged you to take a closer look at your financial journey and that what you have heard today has inspired you to take steps towards creating the life you truly love. Remember, the only limits that exist are the ones we place on ourselves. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Hey, heard you like podcasts? Well, check out Dollar Bets. Two sports guys with faces for radio, betting live money against each other on air. That's Dollar Bets with a Z. Find us on the Winner's Edge.
For those of you who dream of a world where music and podcasts live together in perfect harmony, now for the first time, Electricast gives you a magical compilation, Pod Till You Drop, Volume 1, where we give you the best in tunes and the best in podcasts. Feast your ears and hear the culture. Available now wherever you listen to music.